The Armada came like a storm across the stars. They were vast, merciless, and confident, an endless procession of battleships and war cruisers blotting out constellations as they carved a path through the void. For centuries, they had spread their dominion across half the galaxy, enslaving those who bent and annihilating those who resisted. And now, their gaze had fallen on Earth. The commanders of the fleet looked at humanity with contempt. To them, Earth was young, naive, fractured, still learning to crawl among the stars. A single blue planet orbiting a mediocre sun, protected only by primitive machines. No warships of note, no colonies worth defending, no allies among the stars. This would not be a battle, it would be a harvest. The fleet descended upon the solar system in silence, their weapons already primed to burn. Mars's thin atmosphere rippled as their ships passed, blocking out its pale light. Jupiter's storms flickered beneath the shadows of carriers large enough to carry whole cities. To the invaders, it was nothing more than spectacle. Soon, Earth would fall, and its people would bow. But something stirred, far beneath the waves of Earth's deepest oceans, in caverns untouched. Since the dawn of civilization, structures awakened. They were not human creations. They had been seeded here long before humanity rose, before language, before fire. Enigmatic towers of impossible alloys began to hum with energy, their resonance shivering through tectonic plates. The sea boiled around them as if the planet itself was rousing from slumber. On the frozen plains of Antarctica, vast gates cracked open, releasing air that had not been touched in millions of years. Beneath the Himalayas, crystalline spires vibrated, sending signals skyward in pulses of light invisible to the human eye. Across the Earth, the ancient systems linked, like blood rushing through veins. The planet was remembering. The alien fleet did not notice at first. They were too focused on their preparations, calculating orbital strikes, aligning fleets, ensuring no primitive missile could ever hope to touch them. But then, they saw it. The sky above Earth shimmered. At first, it looked like an aurora, faint colors draped across the atmosphere. Yet it grew, bending, twisting, until the entire planet was cocooned in an invisible sphere. A shield, one that should not have been possible for a species so young. The commanders laughed. Shields were useless before overwhelming firepower. 1,000 warships surged forward, weapons igniting in unison, beams brighter than suns, projectiles faster than thought, energies that could pierce moons, all of it hurled against the fragile-looking veil around Earth. And then, silence. The weapons struck. The sky rippled, but the shield held. Every blast dissolved, scattering into harmless light before reaching the surface. The aliens tried again, with more power, more fury. Their entire fleet unleashed devastation upon the tiny blue world. Yet Earth remained untouched, serene, as if it were mocking them. Then came the answer. From the depths of the oceans, titanic cannons rose like leviathans breaching the sea. They were older than nations, older than the pyramids, their metal uncorroded, their surfaces etched with runes not made by human hands. They turned skyward. The first shot came from the Pacific. A beam of condensed energy tore upward, silent, invisible to human eyes, until it struck. A battleship the size of a mountain split apart in an instant, its hull unraveling like paper. Another followed, then another. Panic rippled through the alien fleet. These were not human weapons. These were remnants of something far older. All across the globe, more weapons awoke. The Mariana Trench erupted with colossal missiles that left glowing trails as they streaked into orbit, piercing ships with surgical precision. In the Sahara Desert, dunes collapsed to reveal vast emplacements that launched swarms of autonomous drones, silent, silver predators that tore into the Armada like sharks in a feeding frenzy. The invaders tried to retaliate, but their fire was absorbed, reflected, nullified. Their mighty engines sputtered, their shields faltered. It was as if the very void had turned against them. What none of them realized was this: Earth was not just a planet. It was a vault. Long ago, when civilizations, older than memory, crumbled and their empires turned to ash, a choice was made. A sanctuary was needed, a final bastion where their knowledge, their weapons, their hope could be hidden. They chose a small, unassuming world, one rich with life but shielded from notice. Earth. Humanity had risen unaware, playing upon a stage, built upon the ruins of forgotten gods. Now those gods' guardians stirred. The battle did not last long. What began as an invasion became a slaughter. For every alien warship destroyed, 10 more fell in the chaos. Their formations shattered, their commanders screamed in disbelief, their arrogance burning away in the face of something incomprehensible. And then, as quickly as it began, it was over. The Great Armada was no more. The survivors, if any could be called such, fled into the darkness, carrying whispers of terror. They would tell the galaxy what they had seen: a planet cloaked in mystery, a fortress that defied empires, a world that crushed an armada without raising a human hand. On Earth, the people lived their lives in ignorance. Children played in fields. Lovers walked along rivers. Families argued at dinner tables. They looked at the stars and dreamed, never knowing how close death had come, nor what had risen to protect them. But somewhere, deep beneath the oceans, the weapons slept again. The shields dimmed, the towers fell silent. Earth returned to stillness, its guardians waiting, watching, always ready. The galaxy would come again. Others always did. But when they did, they would learn the same lesson. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not prey. Earth was the fortress of the ancients, and woe to any who dared test it. The stars dimmed beneath their shadows. The alien armada was vast, a tidal wave of steel and flame advancing upon the solar system. They had conquered worlds 10 times the size of Earth, broken civilizations older than the human species, and bent galaxies to their will. To them, Earth was nothing but an isolated jewel, a backwater planet whose people had only just learned to stumble into space. Weak, divided, primitive, the alien warlord sneered as his fleet cut through the void. This will not be war, it will be reclamation. They believed humanity was young, untested, too foolish to resist. They had watched our rockets, our satellites, our stumbling probes, and laughed. Surely these were the fumblings of children, not warriors. To the invaders, Earth would fall within hours. Perhaps if they were generous, they would allow a fraction of humanity to survive as slaves. But they had miscalculated, for while humanity looked outward to the stars with hope, we also looked inward, with fear. Every war, every rivalry, every weapon built on Earth's soil had been a rehearsal for something greater. The aliens mistook our disunity for weakness. They did not understand that conflict had sharpened us, and in secret, behind the veil of exploration, we had been preparing. Every probe launched beyond the solar system, every silent station built in the asteroid belt, every forgotten satellite left drifting, they were not abandoned dreams. They were pieces of a grand design, a hidden defense web woven with patience and precision. The alien fleet entered the system with confidence, their war engines spreading like an eclipse across the orbit of Saturn. As they crossed the asteroid belt, their arrogance cost them dearly. Without warning, the rocks themselves came alive. Asteroids long thought barren unfolded like iron flowers, revealing barrels of impossible length, rail cannons powered by reactors, buried deep within stone. They fired as one, unleashing tungsten projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The void cracked with fury as the first wave of alien ships disintegrated, their shields useless against the raw kinetic assault. The invaders recoiled, scrambling to adjust formation, but it was too late. From Jupiter's orbit, cloaked satellites flickered to life, weapons powered by solar storms harvested for decades. Lances of energy, white-hot and unrelenting, stabbed through the darkness. Entire cruisers melted under their fury, their hulls dissolving before they even registered the attack. The warlord roared orders, commanding the fleet to advance. "Crush them! These are mere machines!" But humanity's trap was only tightening. Swarm after swarm of AI-controlled drones erupted from hidden vaults across the system. They were small, agile, insect-like, metallic predators programmed for a single purpose: destruction. They darted through enemy lines, piercing engines, tearing through reactors, detonating with surgical precision. For every drone destroyed, 10 more appeared, launched from secret arsenals buried in moons and comets. The aliens tried to push toward Earth, desperate to reach the blue world they had come to conquer. Yet every step forward was punished. Saturn's rings spat hidden missile silos, Neptune's orbit unleashed gravity-driven slingshots of molten rock, and deep within the Kuiper Belt, ancient listening stations coordinated strikes with cold precision. Humanity had turned the solar system into a minefield. Every corner, every orbit, every forgotten rock held teeth. The aliens began to panic. "This is not possible. They are primitives," cried one commander as his battleship was shredded by rail fire. But it was possible, because humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, it was time. For centuries, our people had feared this day would come. Every war we fought on Earth was a reminder. Every nuclear standoff, every arms race, every whisper of apocalypse had pushed us to prepare. Outwardly, we built in the name of science, exploration, and peace. Inwardly, we forged an arsenal hidden among the stars, waiting for the day when Earth would be tested. And now, the test had come. The alien fleet dwindled, their arrogance burning away with every shattered warship. Their weapons, designed to devastate planets, were useless against the shifting, adaptive defense net that struck them from every angle. They had prepared for armies. They had not prepared for a species that turned every piece of space into a weapon. At last, the warlord realized the truth. This was no easy conquest. This was annihilation. "Retreat!" he ordered, his voice trembling. "Retreat before it consumes us all!" But retreat was no salvation. Humanity was merciless. The asteroid cannons continued to fire. The drones pursued like wolves, and beams of energy carved through the fleeing ships. What had entered the solar system as an armada left as wreckage, burning silently in the void. Earth never fired a single weapon from its surface. The battle was won far above, in silence, by preparations no alien had ever suspected. And humanity? Humanity watched from below, unaware. Families ate dinner. Children slept in warm beds. Cities glowed with light and laughter. The world continued, oblivious to the storm that had been shattered above its skies. Yet beyond Earth, in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The survivors carried stories of terror. of a young race that had shattered an empire's pride, of a blue planet ringed with invisible fire, of humans who smiled as they dreamed, never knowing the galaxy now feared them. Earth had not fallen. Earth had risen. And though humanity did not yet realize it, the stars now looked upon them not with contempt, but with dread. For the galaxy had seen the truth. Humans were not prey. Humans were predators hiding in plain sight, and they had just revealed their teeth. The fleet was unstoppable. Thousands of alien warships, vast as mountains and bristling with weapons older than Earth's civilizations, poured into the solar system like a tide of steel. Their empire had conquered dozens of worlds. Their banners burned into the sky of 100 slave races. To them, Earth was nothing more than the next target, primitive, divided, defenseless. The alien commanders laughed at the idea of resistance. Humanity had no fleets, no great colonies, no empire to call upon. What could they possibly do against the most advanced armada in the galaxy? And so the aliens came, with arrogance and certainty, ready to claim their prize, but they had misunderstood what it meant to fight humans. On Earth, the warnings came too late. Radio signals intercepted. Fleets detected beyond Saturn. The world should have fallen into chaos. Governments should have fractured. Nations should have turned upon each other in blame. But something else happened. For the first time in generations, humanity stood as one. The banners of nations blurred into insignificance beneath the shadow of extinction. Rivals became allies overnight. Generals who once stared at each other across hostile borders now sat at the same table, their voices hard and steady. The enemy was not each other. The enemy was coming from the stars. All across the planet, dormant projects came to life. Old rivalries gave way to shared survival. The International Space Defense Network, once considered a fantasy, became reality within hours. Hidden weapons were rolled from bunkers. Satellites were reprogrammed. Every resource, every tool, every scrap of ingenuity humanity had was poured into the defense of Earth. The aliens expected ships and soldiers. What they received was something far more dangerous: human unpredictability. When the first alien wave crossed into Earth's orbit, their warlord expected immediate surrender. He activated his communications, offering mercy if humanity bent the knee. The answer was silence. Then chaos. The sky lit up as civilian satellites, communication arrays, weather stations, even abandoned relics from the Cold War, were repurposed into weapons. They turned into a storm of kinetic projectiles, slamming into alien hulls at blistering speeds, crude, improvised, yet devastating. Entire enemy squadrons fell before they realized Earth had begun to fight back. The aliens retaliated with fury, but humanity adapted faster than they could predict. Power grids were rerouted to create global jamming fields, scrambling the invaders' targeting systems. Civilian rockets, once destined for exploration, were loaded with warheads and launched as makeshift missiles. Even space debris, useless, junk to the aliens, was weaponized, hurled into their formations with precision that no empire had anticipated. Where the aliens relied on their overwhelming firepower, humanity used creativity. Where the invaders planned with logic, humans countered with chaos. Every hour, new tactics emerged. Every strike revealed another trick. The invaders had studied humanity's history of war, but they had never understood it. The battle raged. Above and below, Earth's people fought with more than weapons. They fought with will. Cities turned into command centers. Civilians volunteered by the millions. Engineers rewiring old systems, programmers unleashing viruses into alien networks, pilots willing to launch one-way missions into the void. Humanity poured everything into the fight, refusing to yield, and slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The warlord could not comprehend it. His fleet was superior, his weapons unmatched. By every metric, the battle was impossible to lose. Yet his ships were falling, his formations collapsing, his soldiers breaking. He saw something he had never seen before, a species that did not fear death. A people who fought with desperation and brilliance, who laughed in the face of annihilation, who refused to surrender even when logic demanded it. The humans were not following the rules of war. They were inventing new ones with every breath, and that was their strength. The final blow came not from Earth's hidden weapons, nor from its makeshift fleets. It came from the human spirit. As the Armada's main dreadnought prepared to unleash a weapon that could shatter the planet's crust, a coalition of human ships, patched together from old stations, scavenged rockets, and even repurposed cargo, vessels, made their move. They charged headlong, engines burning, every system pushed beyond its limits. It was madness. It was suicide. It was human. The alien dreadnought unleashed its fury, tearing through the fleet. Ships exploded in blossoms of fire. Hulls split open, scattering crews into the void, but enough of them made it through. Enough rammed their ships into the dreadnought's weapons array, crippling it long enough for Earth's rail cannons to fire. The shot pierced the dreadnought's heart. The pride of the alien empire shattered in an instant. The Armada faltered. Command broke, and humanity struck with everything they had left. The sky burned with alien wreckage, their fleets torn apart not by superior technology, but by the refusal of a young species to kneel. When the battle was over, silence returned to the solar system. The alien empire's mightiest fleet was gone, reduced to drifting ruins. Those few who survived fled, carrying a single truth back to the galaxy. Earth was not weak. Humanity was not prey. On the planet below, billions of humans looked up at the stars with awe. They had fought, they had bled, and they had won. Not because of ancient weapons, not because of hidden defenses, but because when all else failed, humans did the one thing they always did. They adapted, they endured, they refused to die. The galaxy had misjudged them, and now it would never forget them. For in that moment, humanity was no longer a fragile species crawling from its cradle. Humanity had stood before the darkness, stared into the jaws of annihilation, and crushed it with fire and will. And somewhere, in the silence of space, the wreckage of the alien fleet drifted like a monument, an eternal reminder of the day an empire discovered the truth, the day Earth roared back into the galaxy,